Well, hello and welcome to The One Show with Alex Jones.
And Matt Baker. Tonight we are remembering Donald Campbell and his attempt to break the world speed record in 1967.
Yes, his beloved Bluebird, which tragically sank that day, will soon be taken to the water once again, thanks to this man and his team. Now, this is Bill, and Bill is with us tonight, and so is Donald's daughter, Gina. Very much looking forward to catching up with you very shortly.
Now for the tale of tragedy that took place at 300 miles an hour.
Yeah, and the story of a painstakingly faithful restoration that's gone at a much slower pace.
When I was a little lad in the mid-1960s, my friends and I all had one of these. It's the Corgi Toys model of Campbell's land speed Bluebird, the CN7, in which he took the world record to more than 400 miles an hour in 1964. I vividly remember the day he was killed on Coniston. Campbell had long been a national hero, and the news of his death sent the country into a state of national shock.
Donald Campbell, the man who lived for speed, is dead. On the cold, still waters of Lake Coniston, 45-year-old Campbell was making an attempt on the world water speed record which he held. "5,000 years ago," they said, "let us now praise famous men." And in Lake Coniston now laid the body of a famous man who was among the bravest of the brave.
Bill Smith and his team of volunteer engineers, craftsmen and enthusiasts are about to finish a complete and faithful restoration of Donald Campbell's jet-powered hydroplane, Bluebird K7. It's taken them more than a decade, but this summer it'll be ready to go back on the water for the first time in more than 51 years. Why did you become fascinated with Campbell and Bluebird K7?
It was a song.
Which song?
It was Out of This World by Marillion.
300 miles.
And in the middle of this track, there's a recorded loop, which is complete accident, I'm afraid. And I read the lyric sheet. Yeah, him, Campbell chap. And basically all it meant to me as a diver was, oh, shipwreck.
In 2001, Bill and a group of diving friends, after a search lasting more than 4 years, located the wreck of Bluebird and the remains of Donald Campbell. What was the first indication that you got that you'd found it?
Well, the first visible one was a sonar image. There was something in the right place with a trail of bits coming off it. So yeah, I went to the bottom, 140 feet of water, and my fin went into a piece of split aluminium, like that. And it was like someone had grabbed my foot. The bit that grabbed me was that. It was that actual piece of material there, and it was bent up out of here.
Using lift bags, Bill and his team raised Bluebird to the surface. And no one but Bill was prepared to take on the mammoth job of what was regarded as the impossible restoration.
It then became our baby. It was, right, okay, Pat, now we're going to mend you. And we started stripping bits out and looking in places that hadn't been looked in for however many years. In terms of the materials, the condition, the corrosion, quite amazed by what good condition it was in.
This is the original and as yet only partially restored tail fin. And, you know, to say it spent 34 years in 150 feet of water at the bottom of Coniston, it's remarkably well preserved. So what proportion of what we're looking at here, Bill, is actually original?
Pretty much all of it. Yeah, I mean, the instruments are new, but for example, these panels, and all of this.
That is original?
Oh, yeah.
You've just straightened it all out and tidied it up?
Yeah, from mangled scrap to finished parts.
Right. And Bill, where on earth do you go to buy a jet engine? Or 4 jet engines?
One there came from Colorado. They lost the paperwork for it and couldn't fly it, so we bought it as scrap. There's one there belonged to a guy who had his own fleet of aircraft, and this was his spare, so we did a deal with him and got
So they were largely donated, were they?
Pretty much.
Bluebird's restoration may be inspiring a new generation of engineers. Bill's daughter Emily, for example.
I would like to know how to mend things. Like, Daddy, be creative with it.
What's the next thing that you're really looking forward to with Bluebird?
I'm excited for August because then we can do a test on the water and see if it's okay.
This is a privilege and a boyhood dream fulfilled. Oh boy. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Do you need a pilot?
No.
Well, welcome both, Bill and Gina. We saw Andy there fulfilling a childhood dream, as he said, and getting in and sitting in the Bluebird. But of course, he is not going to drive it. But the question is, who is Bill?
We have a hydroplane pilot and record breaker called Ted Walsh. Very
Right.
experienced man, very good hand. He's qualified for the job. He'll do it.
Well, honestly, it's brilliant to see how far you've come. I first met you both about 8 years ago.
Was it that
in the
long?
midst of all of this project, and it's really super to see how it's all coming along. It really is. But Gina, I just want to take you back to that day when you heard that Bill had actually found the Bluebird. You were 17 when you lost your father.
That's right.
So what was it like? All of that obviously coming back, flooding back, when you heard that this was potentially gonna happen.
It was an amazing feeling, and you know, from that day on, you know, this project has moved forward, and
Yeah.
Bill and his wonderful, dedicated volunteers up in North Shields have done a remarkable job in restoring the boat. I mean, she's going to look better when we all see her next time than she probably ever looked in her life.
Yeah.
But for me, it's going to be, Gina, you'll have to ask me at the time, Matt.
Yeah.
So you make sure you come along. We'll pick some nice weather for you.
Let's do it.
Because
Let's
I
do it.
won't know how I feel, you know, until I actually see it.
Yeah,
You know, having seen my dad in there always, and then to see Ted, who I have huge admiration for.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. Actually, it's going to be amazing. Come
And
on, let's be positive.
It can't be easy to look at footage like that, seeing your dad there going along. But for you, Bill, what is the goal with this? What's the next step of getting your Bluebird actually out onto the water?
Well, we're off to Loch Fad on the Isle of Bute in August to train the crew, because nobody knows how to handle this machine and hasn't done so for over half a century. So we have to learn to get it in and out of the water, on and off the trailer, fueling, this kind of thing. And ultimately, we hope to display the boat at speed on the water, hopefully at Coniston, as the final closing of the circle before she goes on public display.
Yeah, that would be such a big day for you, Bill, but also for you, Gina, I'm sure. You know, there must be a movie in this, Simon.
What is... I was going to ask, what's the knots count for a 300-mile-an-hour... do you know that, what that is?
Well, it's plus
Knots,
it's 0.1, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's 330.
Because I drove a speedboat this year on a film at 20 knots. So...
And it felt pretty fast.
And it
didn't
was...
it?
that felt
Yes,
fast,
yes,
yeah,
it
absolutely.
does, that's right.
It was a twin-engine speedboat, and it was on the River Seine, and we weren't allowed to take it over. And that did feel fast. I can't imagine what 300 miles an hour on water must feel
Incredible.
like.
If you jump out of a boat at over 60 miles an hour, you
Yeah.
might just well jump out of a motor car.
Same
You will hit
impact.
the water at the same impact, yes.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
I won't do that. I was going to do it tomorrow. Weirdly.
Don't do
I
it.
made a plan. I must call someone and get that cancelled.
And Bill, I mean,
Or
how
increase
do
the
you,
insurance.
yeah.
Bill, how do you put into context 22 years of your life, and it is, you know, shortly, hopefully, going to come to a magnificent end?
It's just been like a career, only without any wages.
Yeah.
We heard even your daughter Emily, you know, she's been born into it,
Yeah.
and she's very excited about this day in August where all your work will come to fruition.
I've got another daughter called Lucy as well. She was born into it, and she's 12, and she's never had a daddy on a Saturday since she was born. So, yeah, it's just an unpaid job that goes on forever, so I might get to
Yeah.
retire eventually.
And Gina, let's just finish on the note of who this little teddy bear
There's
is.
this
down
little Mr. Woppet who was my dad's mascot, and when we saw that fatal run, Mr. Woppet was tucked under my dad's seat, but he popped to the surface. He jumped ship straight away, whereas Bill didn't find my dad for many decades later. But this little fella, he made sure he was there.
And is Mr. Woppet going to be
Mr.
on
Woppet.
board?
Yeah, you know, one has to question how lucky he really is, and so maybe
Glad you
he'll
said that.
yeah, maybe he'll watch from the sidelines.
Maybe.
Watch
There
from
we
the
are.
cafe.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's been great to see you both again, and
Yeah.
let's hope we can hook up
Thank you.
on that day.
Be
Magic
wonderful.
to see it, really was.
Thank you.